It's Mr. Matt Richardson.
What a dream in my showbiz career.
Once more with feeling.
I remember watching Thunderbirds as a child, but the big thing for me was the toys.
Thunderbird, you're ready for launch.
I'm actually proud. Okay, I was going to be modest there, but I'm really chuffed with it.
Anything can happen in the next half hour.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody. It's the Gerry Anderson podcast.
Why are you so excited?
Because I'm happy.
Right.
Because someone's got to be.
Yeah, fine.
And I've nominated myself.
Good. This is Pod 365, and I've worked out
is.
that means that you at home could watch or listen to a different episode of the Gerry Anderson podcast each day for a whole year.
How long did it take you to figure that out?
All year. So we're here every month.
Every month.
With a very special guest, and we're going to try and entice them into watching an episode of a Gerry Anderson series with us a little later on the Randomiser, which you will see in a couple of weeks' time in its own special section.
Yes. Later on, we shall have the Voice of the Podsterons,
Yes.
which is your chance to have your say on what we're doing,
Yes.
what's going on,
Yes. Some
anything
news
you like,
and so on.
A bit of news, yes.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
And a bit of Jamie Anderson.
Yes, Jamie will be joining us as well.
Yes.
So you can get in touch at podcast@gerryanderson.com. We'll read out all your emails, well, some of them anyway, later on in the episode. So, Chris, who do we have this week?
It's Mr. Matt Richardson.
Oh,
Thank
there
you for
he is.
having me.
Hello, Matt.
Thank you for coming.
What a pleasure to be here.
Nice to see you.
It's very nice to be here. Thank you for bringing me to Slough. What a
Well,
dream in my showbiz career.
Have you never visited before?
Oh, I've been many times. Plenty of times I've had to get a bus replacement service from here when I grew up in Didcot.
Always the way, yep.
But yeah, thanks for having me.
Well,
thank you for
once
coming,
more with
yeah.
feeling. No, that's great. So, Matt, I mean, you're well seasoned, aren't you? You started at a very young age.
I was
and you're,
18 when I started doing stand-up. Yeah, I'm very well seasoned, but not very well known. I'm sort of this weird thing where I've made a lot of stuff that no one liked.
Okay.
So the opposite of this, basically, and Gerry Anderson.
We're not far off.
Two things.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
but-
So, do you remember your first gig?
My first gig, I do indeed. My first gig was on the 5th of November 2009 at Oxford Brookes University. I'd gone to university and was like commuting in, and I really loved stand-up. I'd wanted to do it since I was like 14 years old, and there was a little comedy night, so I'd signed up to that. So I did that, and
Wow.
it went really well. The first one went amazing. It was the subsequent ones for a while that weren't ideal.
You say you wanted to do it since you were 14 years old.
Yeah.
Why? I mean, it just strikes terror into the hearts of lots of people. the
Yeah,
idea
I
of-
never had that thing that a lot of people do about public speaking, even as a child and a teenager. I was a massive show-off, basically, as
Right.
a child. I did my first gig, actually, if we're being technical, I was 6 years old. I got a microphone for Christmas that had 3 buttons on it that one of them laughed, one of them booed, and one of them cheered. So I did a gig in my living room to my mum and dad and my aunts and uncles when I was about 6.
Fantastic.
And that was it. I'm trying to find that thing. I think that would be an amazing sort of toy
Yeah.
to bring back, but my mum got rid of it, obviously.
Oh.
This was in the days before we realised that throwing away plastic toys was horrendous.
I know, and I think it's still around somewhere. Every bit of plastic that's ever thrown away, still around.
It's in a landfill in Oxfordshire somewhere, but I can't go digging for it.
Much like my career. Chris, shall we move on to something much more
Well,
important?
yes. We want to probe your Anderson knowledge.
Okay.
We want to know how well you know your pop kisses from your Parkers.
Yes.
Your
Okay.
Zills from your Zunies.
Yes.
Oh no.
Your Lemoys from your Lazoons.
Okay.
Your,
I mean, this is the first time I've heard of some of these, so this could be troubling
I
for me.
could keep going, but I won't.
Yeah.
Yes, we are going to test your Anderson knowledge.
Okay.
We've asked you what you know,
Yeah.
what you don't know.
Okay.
Yes.
And we have measured the score
Yes.
on the Andermeter.
Right.
I think
for
we
this?
should now consult the Andermeter.
Let's have a look.
See how you do.
Right. How high will he go? 1, 2, back to 1.
2.
Well,
Yeah.
right, Matt. You scored
A
2.
lot to learn here.
I have a lot to learn. So I remember watching Thunderbirds as a child, but the big thing for me was the toys were massive. So this is like the early 90s and the mid 90s. The toys were bigger than the show by that point. Like having Tracy Island, I had one friend who had Tracy Island and it was like really coveted. Even though a lot of my friends, I don't even know sort of they knew that it was from a TV show.
Okay,
I had
yes,
Thunderbird 2 and that was kind of quite a good one to have. And Thunderbird 1, one of my other friends had. We sort of all had different Thunderbirds because our parents were only willing to buy us one toy from a series we had not much of a clue about.
Well, look, take
I
a look
know,
at that.
I
Pick it
know,
up. You're
gosh.
told that. Just play with the Thunderbird 2. I mean, so what do you remember specifically about the toys rather than the shows? Did it have sort of movable parts?
They were really advanced for that kind of time. So, Tracy Island, you could land in it, you could open it all up. Thunderbird 2 opened all up. They were
Yes.
really good toys.
Okay.
And I remember the TV show a bit bit, but I really remember playing with them.
Nice.
That was my big memory from childhood.
You had a little hole round the back with buttons, didn't you?
Yeah,
To
yeah, yeah.
make
You could go
voices
in and sort of
such.
play with it all there. It was really good.
Now, so we mentioned Thunderbirds.
Yes.
But how do you fancy watching a classic series, or rather an episode from a classic series of a Gerry Anderson show with us a little later on?
I'd love to.
Brilliant.
Yes.
Well,
Well,
I'm guessing you two are absolute experts at this. You are the top pros.
well, Chris knows all about it. I was in one.
Okay. There we go. Right.
Yeah, so my knowledge is somewhat limited. But Chris
Do you do the Comic Cons and things to talk about it? And you get asked questions that you go, I just have no clue.
done a few of them.
And they ask you things that you go, I
It was
don't know.
30 years ago.
It was 30 years ago and
Yeah.
it was a job.
But he did write a book about it, though.
Okay, fine. Well, there we go.
That's very true, yes. Available now. So, Chris, tell us all about the Randomiser.
We have a machine called the Randomiser.
Mm-hmm.
In the Randomiser, we have every episode of every Gerry Anderson show and the 4 feature films ever made.
Yep.
We're going through them one episode at a time. It's completely random.
Yep.
So if you pick up that red button there, you will, once you have pressed it, you will have selected a random episode from a random show.
Yeah.
There are 18 shows.
Okay.
It could be something amazing.
Could be Thunderbirds.
It could be Thunderbirds.
Yeah.
It could be Captain Scarlet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could be...
Let's not go through all 18 of them.
No.
Fine. Come on then.
I didn't realise there was such an ouvre. This is
a
very
big
exciting.
responsibility.
Top points
So-
for using the word oeuvre.
Thank you very much. I heard it on a podcast yesterday. So I'm looking very clever. 3.
Very good.
I
You see,
mean,
you've
I
done-
didn't even know. I've never done that before. It's very
It's a
exciting.
latent memory.
2.
Yes.
1.
Let's have a look. So we're flashing through every.
So these are all puppet shows.
Okay.
That was quick.
That was very quick. So,
Very quick.
Very quick.
Wait,
Did I press it too hard? Sorry.
No.
Okay.
we're talking very
fine.
early days here.
Yeah.
Have you heard of Fireball XL5?
I haven't heard of Fireball XL5.
Okay. So it's pre-Thunderbirds.
Yep.
Yes.
Black and white.
Mm-hmm.
It's puppetry, so you'll be in fairly familiar territory if you remember anything about Thunderbirds. But Chris, tell us a little bit more about Fireball XL5.
So Fireball XL5,
Mm-hmm.
it's set 100 years in the future aboard a spaceship called Fireball XL5. There were 39 episodes.
I love this. I love anyone who's into
If
something
you
hugely.
consult the XL5 tech manual, they've listed all the crews in there. There's a Captain or Colonel Richard Dale.
Oh yes, I have seen that. Yes,
Yes.
that's very sweet. Yeah, that's very nice. What floats your boat then? So you're saying you hinted there that you love to see passion in people.
Planes.
Planes.
Yeah, but like I'm into commercial aircraft. Like I'm a proper AV geek when it comes to that sort of stuff.
spotter?
Yeah, if my fiance would allow me,
Yeah.
I do lie about what time our flight is so we can get to the airport a bit earlier because she wouldn't want to go 4 hours before, but I'm very happy to. And I will go out of my way to fly certain airlines and like aircraft I've not flown before, and I subscribe to Airliner World magazine. I am.
Airliner World.
I think it is in my bag actually.
Right.
Planes are my thing. Planes,
Okay.
I love planes.
Nice plug
So I
for
did.
Airliner
I did do. Mastermind and Concorde was my specialist subject.
Was it?
Yeah, I like planes.
Oh, amazing.
So this kind of thing is very much in the kind
Yes.
of stuff I love anyway now,
Absolutely
but
right.
it's nice to find a new sort of version of it. Space
Yes.
has always been a bit hazy for me, but I'm excited to watch.
Well, hopefully you'll be impressed with the design of Fireball XL5. It's
Yeah.
quite an iconic craft, even though I can't draw one to save my life.
No, we know that
Yes.
from bitter experience. That's right. But it's interesting, isn't it? So you say you have an interest in aircraft, and
Yeah.
obviously Thunderbird 2 you had as a kid. These were glimpses of a possible future, and even Concorde, I know it was a thing, but it seemed so futuristic.
Yes.
And it's quite telling that it cannot exist now. It's like for those brief, however many years,
Yeah.
we had a glimpse into what the future could be.
Well, I think it's sort of so the 60s and 70s were definitely a time where people really wanted to push hard for the future, whereas that doesn't exist now. It's all about, not to get into a boring thing, but, profit and how we make this work, whereas companies wanted to be the best and the first, and there
Yeah.
were all these frontiers to pass,
Yeah.
and it just doesn't feel like that anymore. It's all now, obviously, for good reason, about efficiency or
Yes.
comfort rather than what is the most extreme thing we can make. And these shows definitely existed at a time where the sky was, not even the limit. You could go much further, and
Yeah.
everyone was very hopeful about what would be achieved.
Well, XL5 was inspired in part by the space race that was going on at
Oh,
the time.
really?
It was a part of the culture of the time. So there were quite a few spacey shows around this time. But yeah, this was I think the main British venture into that field.
Yeah, and filmed just down the road, was it?
Just down the road on the Slough Trading Estate.
Yeah.
Yes, which
Lovely.
is not there anymore,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
But that was where they
it
made Thunderbirds and all the other puppet shows.
Really?
Yeah.
It is funny, isn't it, the sort of shonkiness of the British television industry, because even now people go, oh, those studios look amazing. And I go, they're not. They're warehouses
Of
on
course.
the edges of towns you don't... I've spent so much of my life in Elstree, in
Yes.
like Boreham Wood, kind of wandering up that awful high street
Yeah.
in between shows,
Yeah.
going,
Wow.
this isn't showbiz.
That's
This
the
isn't what I
magic.
wanted.
Yeah, but that's the magic.
Isn't
Sprinkle
it?
of stardust.
Yes, but you just think
Anything's
Harrison
possible.
Ford must have walked up and down there filming Star Wars, the poor man.
Yeah, that's
and now they make
extraordinary.
Pointless there. It's not very glam.
Well, actually, I think the studio where they made XL5 does still exist.
Okay.
It is now it's a garage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Fair
that's,
enough.
they mostly
It
feel like
exists,
garages
yeah.
anyway, don't they?
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned the Tracy Island toy that everyone
Yes.
was very keen to get their hands on
Oh,
back in the
yeah.
day. So let's have a look at this and see if it jogs
Definitely.
any memories for you.
The creature that time forgot.
Help.
Brains is in deadly danger. Launch Thunderbirds.
Opening pool.
Thunderbird 1, FAD.
Launching Thunderbird 1. Opening hangar.
Thunderbird 2, ready for launch.
It's eating everything in its path. Thunderbirds 1 and 2 to the rescue.
In the nick of time.
Monster captured. Mission accomplished.
Thunderbirds Tracy Island playset with electronic sound from Matchbox.
Well,
My gosh.
Bring back any memories?
So many. I will say it's a lot smaller than I remember. I remember it being
Yeah, there you
this
go.
vast kind of jungle island, but it is. You know,
Yeah,
it's
it's
child
compact.
size,
Yeah,
isn't
of
it? It's for
course.
children.
That's right.
And the palm trees. My friend who had it only had 4 of the palm trees left. He was.
They were so easily broken.
I was not a rough player, but he very much was. I didn't like him playing with my toys, but yeah, because he was rough with his Tracy Island and the sounds and everything. I forgot there were those in
that's
them.
Right. That's the thing that very often lodges in people's minds: the sound
Yeah.
effects, the music, things like that. You know,
Yeah,
from
it's
these series.
absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
Like I've not seen anything. I've not seen it for 30 years. You
Yeah.
know, that is really
The sliding
wild.
pool
I
and
bet
all
it's
that.
one of those that's really collectible now as well. Probably.
It does seem to be, yeah. It's not impossible to get hold of, and it's
Okay.
reasonably priced normally.
Yeah.
I mean, I
okay.
don't know if you're old enough to remember the famous Blue Peter. When
Oh, I remember them making
But-
Tracy Island.
there you go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
'cause it's-
I attempted to make it, but I am not crafty in any
Yes,
way. It
yeah,
was
yeah. Well,
terrible.
You say that, we'll be testing that a bit
Oh,
later
really?
on.
Oh,
so,
God. Oh, no, don't do that.
little something to look forward to, I think. Yeah, that's right. So let's get back to your stand-up and your career.
Yes.
So where do you find your material? I mean, it's probably a question you get very bored of being asked. But
It's you know what, it's all sorts of places. So like I'm going to go on tour this year. There we
Good.
go, lovely
Excellent.
little plug.
Yeah.
And a lot of that. So I've moved to the countryside, and a lot of my show is about moving to a village and how weird that is.
There you go.
Living in a village is very strange.
Yes. Yes.
And all the people that live in the village. A lot of it's always been a lot of family stuff. Some other bits about like my mum and dad featured heavily for years. My other half
Do
is
they
in it a
mind?
lot. No, they don't love it. So I used to have a bit about accidentally finding, I'm trying to word this properly, accidentally finding my parents' marital aid, and my mum didn't love that one, and especially when she was in the crowd, and I'd go, she sat there as
Wow,
well.
that's really
so like,
harsh.
that's not ideal, but
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't think people mind too much because. Little peek behind the curtain. It's sort of there's a grain of truth, and then it expands. So
Yes, okay.
it's one of
That's
those
right.
I think where I've shared lots of embarrassing stuff, but then a lot of it is about me being an idiot. Basically, that's a lot of stand-up, isn't it?
and were you always heading here? Was this always your trajectory to be a stand-up, or were you?
Yes, well, because I was 18 when I did my first gig, so I was doing it full time at 20. I've
Wow.
never had like a proper full time job. I've always
Yeah.
kind of done. I did some bits and pieces on the side, but I've done it for 15 years nearly, sort of
Yes.
full time. So yeah, this has been it. I've never really known anything else. When I
Yeah.
started gigging, I sort of very quickly, there's competitions you enter when you're new,
Mm-hmm.
did well in those, and then ended up in the club. So I was like doing really rough sort of stag and hen do clubs at like 19 and 20. And I look back and I think the level of confidence and precociousness that
Absolutely.
takes to stand in front of 300 drunk people and go, I'm going to tell you what it's like living at home with my mum and dad, actually. I'm not interested in you. It's just madness.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was sort of, and then very quickly, I was sort of by 22, I got seen at a gig and I was hosting kind of TV shows and doing lots of like random things. And I've had a
Yes.
very random career. Like lots of my friends went on to do things, normal, Mock the Week, Live at the Apollo.
Yes.
And I went off and did like, very strange stuff.
Well, we'll be taking a look at
Yeah,
some
we'll
of that
have a
a
look
little
at a
later
bit
on.
of
But in the meantime, let's have a look at some of your stand-up.
Lovely.
Weird Weird Crush of the Year. Heat Magazine's Weird Crush of the Year. I didn't think anything could annoy me more in my life than being crowned Heat Magazine's Weird Crush of the Year. That is, until 2015, when they put me 5th! Which is so much worse! Because I'm not getting more sexy, I'm getting less famous. And that's depressing, right?
I dropped off the list the year afterwards. That was really hard. I really campaigned for Weird Crush as well. I thought when I got nominated, there's like a public vote, and I thought, well, I'm going to need to win it.
Is it still a thing that goes on?
I don't know if Heat Magazine is as big as, like, this was in like 2013, 2014, like round that time when I was first doing The Extra Factor and all those sorts of TV shows. It was still massive. So yeah, I did it, and I then did a really tongue-in-cheek photo shoot of me in sort of like different uniforms, sort of a fireman's outfit and a police outfit. Yeah, I mean, and I told them, I said to Heat, I went, if I win, I will do any photo shoot you like.
So do you think you could see yourself wearing something like that?
I mean, if I could pull it off like that, I absolutely would.
I'm sure we've got a few Thunderbirds costumes lying around in the warehouse, haven't we, Jamie? Yeah.
Well, very good. Well, if Heat Magazine want to see that sexy, I'll do it again.
So now, are you sort of, as much as anyone can be, but particularly in your line of work, are you in charge of your career, or are you?
Well, yes and no. I've been fired a lot.
Right.
I've done a lot of shows that haven't been recommissioned. I think we've all been there.
Yeah.
But the good thing about stand-up is, TV. Especially now, TV's really changed, really fluctuates. So you can always go and gig. That's the good thing about it's not like being an actor where you're waiting for the next job. In between those things, you just go back into the comedy clubs and then wait for whatever happens, or the next tour, or if there's going to be another TV show. Or you get the call going, do you want to make a documentary about millionaire dogs? And you go, I've got some rent to pay, so absolutely I do.
I want to see that.
Yeah,
that's actually what I want to see.
No one wanted to see it. No one watched it. It was on ITVB. It's a channel you've never even heard of by the look of you.
Has it just been axed?
I think it has, yeah. I wasn't part of that. This documentary was a long time ago. But yeah, I've done loads of I'd say yes a lot. So I think a lot
hence why you're here today.
Well, exactly. But also because I think it's interesting. I just want to have an interesting life and have a laugh. Whereas a lot of comics, I've done things, they go, well, I'd never have done that. And I think, oh yeah, but it was really, I made a ghost hunting show, for 2 series, me and Christine Lampard hosted, and it was mad, but it was really fun. And it was a great few weeks of making it. So
Celebrity Haunted Hotel or something.
Celebrity Haunted Hotel, and then we did a second series, Celebrity Haunted Mansion, and it was on W. It's another channel no one knows. And but it's that it was really good fun. It was something a bit different. So I always think if something comes up that's a bit weird, I'd love to do that. I'm really into those things. So even this, I think, this will be interesting, and talking about something I don't have an amazing knowledge about. This is why I love the job.
Yeah, great. Yeah. Well, we'll hope to increase your knowledge now. We're going to have a quick mission briefing, getting back to Fireball XL5, and here's some facts about what you're going to be watching a little later on.
So we have 5 quick facts about Fireball XL5. Firstly, that it takes place in the year, it's set 100 years in the future, which at the time it was made, that was 1962, so you're looking at 2062, 2063.
Right, which is actually nearer to us now
than
the making of Fireball XL5.
Don't do that. No,
it's in, 37 years?
Yeah, we might not get there.
Speak for yourself.
I'm not optimistic.
Hang on.
In terms of having the World Space Patrol.
Sorry, I see. I thought you meant like us. I mean, we might have to go to space because it's not great down here at the moment, is it?
Yeah, you never know. So this was the first Anderson series to appear on US network television. It was bought by NBC to show on Saturday mornings.
Right.
It did really well. One notable fan who saw it on NBC at the time was a little boy named Tom Hanks.
Really?
He's referenced it in his work several times.
Right.
No way.
Several films and documentaries. I think he made a series about the history of space.
Yes, he did.
And he used the song,
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so he's a big fan still.
Yeah.
The special effects team.
Well, I appreciate you having me instead of him today. That's really useful.
When you can't get Tom Hanks.
When you can't afford Tom Hanks.
Yeah, fair enough.
A lot of the special effects team were regular customers of the Woolworths, so there would have been a Woolworths store on Slough High Street. They would buy up Airfix kits to help make their spacecraft and their buildings and such.
Yeah.
You get a girder bridge model kit, say you've got all these ready-made bits of piping.
Such a clever way of doing it, isn't it?
Yeah. There's also a lot of, there's quite a few sort of, they were obviously aircraft kits, modified to be spaceships, but
Right, yes.
it's a bit hit and miss. That
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
This series, Gerry wasn't too keen on the fact that the puppets couldn't really walk convincingly. So, as with the previous series, Supercar, where he built a vehicle for them to travel around in, here we have jetmobiles for the
yes.
XL5 crew to explore planets with.
It's a perennial problem getting the puppets to walk
Yes.
convincingly.
So difficult, isn't
That's
it?
Right.
What was there was a TV show, a kids' TV show, where they kind of like wobbled around. They were sort of they had a semicircle bottom. They kind of went back and forth. Oh, what are they called?
That rings a bell.
I know the
Weebles.
Weeble.
The
I know the
Weebles,
toys, the Weebles,
Yeah, but
yes.
then there was a TV show and I watched on the 100 Greatest Kids TV shows when I was younger. And basically they were like everyone thought it was weird, but we didn't want to do legs because it's so difficult
That's right.
to live sort of it was stop motion, I think, rather than puppetry.
Okay,
but
but even
they were
so-
going, we just can't do legs. It's too expensive
Yeah.
and it takes forever.
Yeah, so put them on a jet ski or a hover jet or
Jetmobile,
anything.
yeah. In
Jetmobile.
Thunderbirds, they had something similar. And this was Gerry Anderson's final black and white puppet series.
Right,
Black
okay.
and white TV series at all. After this, they moved to full colour with Stingray.
Mm-hmm.
We have, I believe there's 4, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 colourised episodes of Fireball XL5. It looks really nice in colour.
Yeah.
Lovely.
We won't be watching one of those.
We won't be watching one of those.
Shame.
We'll be watching a black and white one.
Yeah, purists.
Yeah,
Purists.
quite
Right, yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
There is a raging debate about whether these
Yes.
things should be colorized or left as they were viewed.
Because what I think about with colorization is that wouldn't have been the colors that we think would be right for it aren't the colors they would have filmed it in because of black and white film,
Yeah.
right? So actually, like, it shouldn't ever be colorized. No, it should
Really
be
good
kept.
point. Were they in full color? The costumes and the models and so
The
on.
costumes would have been in colour, yeah. There's
Right.
colour photos.
Yeah.
But there's not many for XL5.
Yeah.
And there's some where you look at it and think, oh, it's just a sort of odd shade of blue that
Because it didn't matter.
in colour wouldn't.
Yeah.
Because it
pop.
looks better in black and white, so
Yeah.
I don't think we should color it because
Yeah.
I think that's not what was meant to happen.
Yeah, fair
And
enough.
also, it's very expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But to conclude this little mission briefing,
Yes.
here's a look at some of the characters you're going to meet in Fireball
Lovely.
XL5.
Across 39 action-packed episodes, the heroic Colonel Steve Zodiac of the World Space Patrol took the controls of Fireball XL5, one of a fleet of XL rocket ships based at Space City.
Don't you think you should take the Professor and Venus on this mission?
Steve's crew consisted of the scientific genius Professor Matthew Mattick, the beautiful Doctor of Space Medicine, Venus,
I gather by the compliments, Steve, you want something to eat.
and robotic co-pilot Robert. In charge of Space City itself was the lovably cantankerous Commander Zero,
This is World Space Patrol headquarters, not a circus!
with his eager assistant Lieutenant 90 often finding himself used as a sounding board for Zero's frustrations.
But sir! There you go again!
There we are.
Great.
A glittering array of characters to be introduced to. a little
Very
later on.
exciting.
Yes, lots to look forward to there.
I will say, it's very good how they make puppets attractive. Like, it's a really clever skill, and I don't know how they do it.
It worries me when they describe a puppet character, as beautiful.
But they are though. Like you can tell that in the puppet world they are a beautiful person.
Oh, yeah.
Like I can tell you which one of those are good looking and not good looking.
Okay,
Like
yes.
I've got an eye for puppet fitness, clearly.
Right, obviously. Well, you're in the right place.
I am
This is
indeed.
shortly before the
Or
point.
the wrong place for you, actually.
This is shortly also before the point where they started to model some of the puppets on real life celebrities.
Right.
There's quite a few characters actually. Scott Tracy in Thunderbirds is one, allegedly modelled on Sean Connery.
Really?
Quite
That's
a
so
few Sean
interesting.
Connerys, yeah.
That's right.
Various
James Garner
James
and,
Garner,
right.
Sarah Andreas.
Yeah.
Just
Interesting.
that goes on.
Yeah. So all that to look forward to when we watch our episode of Fireball XL5. I can
Yes.
reveal now it's Trial by Robot.
Oh, lovely.
Are you ready for a trial by robot?
Am I ever?
Okay.
In 5 years' time, that's how all trials are going to happen. So
Yes.
Probably not
we
far
might as
off.
well get ready now.
But let's get back to you, Matt. So we've spoken a little bit about your stand-up career, but there's also, you mentioned it briefly as well, you're presenting. So
Yeah.
how did that come about?
By accident. I never wanted to do. I wasn't interested in being a TV presenter or any sort of presenter. And then I was doing a gig at the Edinburgh Festival that many comedians do. Me and Angela Barnes, a very good comic, were doing a two-hander, and someone from ITV went along. And then a few months later, I got an email going, "Would you like to come in and have a meeting about replacing Ollie Murs on the Extra Factor?" And bear in mind, at this point, I still lived at home. I was 22. I lived at home with my parents, and I was like a gigging stand-up. I was sort of like not even a headliner, just sort of cracking away. And then I went into like several auditions for it, and then they offered me the job, and ended up. That was my first TV gig. I sort of went up to Glasgow and met Sharon Osbourne and spent 6 months hanging out with her and Gary Barlow and all the others. It was very surreal.
Yes, I can imagine. And
it was great fun.
Is that a whole different skill set, or are you?
Yes, I think lots of stand-ups end up doing telly because we can think on our feet and like we're used to things going wrong and sort of various other bits and bobs. We sort of are a bit quite dynamic in that way. But yeah, it's sort of a similar skill set, I think. There are comics that are really good presenters and there are that aren't great. Like it sort of depends really. Yeah. And I'm sure there's a debate, as there is on the Digital Spy forums, of if I am any good or not.
You don't read those. One of those.
Oh yeah, I'm insane. I read everything. I'm absolutely bonkers.
No.
So yeah, it depends really. But like, it was really good fun. Lots of live stuff. We went all over the world for it. It was it was great. And I then go back home to my mum and dad's house. It was very strange. Yeah. I was living a very different life. I remember once we went for dinner and I was sat with Dermot O'Leary, who was hosting the main show. Yeah. And we were sort of sat in, my life is not this showbiz anymore. We were sat in Antigua and we were having dinner. And then the bill came. There's about 12 of us at dinner and it's £1,000. And I was like, oh, that's not, because we've all drunk and that's quite nice. And Dermot went, no, that's for the 2 bottles of wine you and I have just sat and drunk. And I was like, Dermot, I haven't been paid for this yet. Can I like pay you? And he was like, no, I ordered them. Wow. But I was like, oh yeah, I am hanging out with people in a totally different financial bracket to me now. Yeah. This is a struggle. Yeah. But yeah, it was really good fun. It was a real baptism of fire. And then lots of other things. So I ended up doing loads of like panel shows off the back of it and have hosted loads of random stuff. So it sort of launched my career, but in a different. I always imagined I'd go and do the Fringe, do the panel shows, and then end up doing tours. But it was a slightly different world.
And what's your ultimate aim then? I mean, have you?
These days,
have you written your own sitcom and all that sort of stuff?
No, never written a sitcom. I've sort of the acting thing is just not something I've ever really been interested in. I just like doing different stuff. I like the idea that every year you start the year and go, I don't know what's going to happen or where I'm going to end up going and what jobs I'm going to do. So that's really fun.
That would just be, oh my God.
Yeah, it can. Look, January, I say that at the beginning of every year. Once the 31st of January's come, I then start to panic. Yeah. But it's... I don't know. Like, I don't really have a goal. I think when I was younger, I was much more ambitious of going, I want to be selling massive theatres, I want to be doing this and that. But now I just like the ride, really, and I really enjoy gigging. Because after COVID, I'd been on Virgin Radio for years, and then I got let go from that job because of one of the other presenters who didn't like me.
Fair enough.
And who still presents the breakfast show there and made my life miserable.
I might cut this.
Yeah, you can cut that if you want. I don't mind. I've said it on other podcasts. I've called him much worse on other podcasts. But basically, we... then COVID happened, and then I came out of COVID and I was like, well, I've sort of had this, I was doing 5 days a week on the radio for 4 or 5 years, and then I went back into the clubs like 5-6 nights a week for the first time, and sort of, it was a totally different thing, and really rediscovered just like the kind of pirate's life that is stand-up, of like travelling around, being in random cities, doing gigs as much as you can, and it was great.
And on your own generally, or do you have like a stage manager or a producer at least,
on
or someone
tour,
with you?
I have a support act, but in the clubs there's normally 4 of you, so there's a compere and 3 acts. Right. So you're sort of gigging with, so like this weekend, for example, I'm in Liverpool for 4 nights. Excellent. Sort of 6 gigs over 4 nights with the same people, so that'll be really fun. Yeah. So it's a small world, and everyone knows everyone, so it's really nice.
Now, we recently had Wendy Wason.
I know Wendy,
as our guest, and she was saying it came as a great surprise to her when she was younger, seeing stand-up, that they could do the same thing twice, 3 times, 4 times.
Essentially the same
over and
over again.
Yeah, that's right.
Over and over.
How do you approach that? Does that become boring at some point, or I suppose you're at liberty to switch it up if you need to?
And I will say, so when you write a new tour, you always like, that's a new show for people, and lots of people write a new Edinburgh show every year. But in the clubs, I have like a 20 minutes that really works, and it does evolve and change. And like there are bits of it that started as one joke that are now 4 minutes long. Like it kind of everything grows and contracts, and you get new little bits that come off of it. I don't mind the repeating. Like there's some nights you go, let's say you do, 4 or 5 gigs in a night sometimes if you're running around a city, and by gig 4 you say a bit and they stare at you and you go, why didn't you like that? And someone will go, because you just did it already. And you go, I've really lost track of what I'm doing here.
Crazy.
But it's not too bad, and you always find new ways to do it. And also when you're doing I'm quite rude, so my stuff is relatively rude, not all of it, but a chunk of it, and when you're doing like an arts centre on a Tuesday, like the challenge of doing your stuff but in a way that appeals to that crowd is different to a Friday night in Liverpool City Centre. So there's always a variety to it, which is quite interesting. It's a puzzle, and how you solve the puzzle of how can I have a good gig in front of this very different audience.
Yeah.
I suppose if you don't solve it the right way, you immediately get the vibe.
Totally, but the good thing is you can solve it along the way. Like a gig isn't over till you're off stage. So like you do shows where they don't really go for you and you win them by the end, or it's going fine and you say the wrong thing and you lose them. Like it's so variable that keeps it interesting. Most of the job is just sat in a car by yourself though, listening to audiobooks.
That's what I wouldn't
If I knew how much was admin and driving, I probably wouldn't have done it.
Right.
It's basically logistics, but it's great fun. Like it's cool.
Well, let's have a little look at you in action from, I think this is from the Extra Factor.
Oh my gosh, this will be 2013.
Right.
Wow.
Matt's busy backstage taking his floor managing role very, very seriously.
How long has this not been working for? People think the X Factor begins and ends with that stage. That's not true. There's a whole world you don't think about. Back here, there's family, there's friends. This is all under my command. If this falls apart, it's down to me. And that means no show for you guys, so you're welcome.
Exuding confidence.
But
you have to, don't you?
Yeah, but I had no idea what I was doing. And they don't give you a course in it. So all of a sudden, I remember my first live show of that. So basically, that would have been boot camp, maybe, if you remember how the X Factor worked. They went to boot camp, and boot camp is, people singing. There's a lot of people singing, and there's 2 hours of the main show. So on ours, they went, well, each episode will have you take on a different job in the production to learn about telly. So you're going to be the floor manager. And so me and a guy called Boris, they just went, right, you two go and like do whatever you want and like work it out. So we just went, we just did things we thought were funny.
Yes.
There was a lot of freedom there. And then we went on to the live shows there, and you think, no one taught me how to listen to a talk back or read an auto cue and all that. It was good. It was a real crash course.
Absolutely.
It was 6 months of filming, like sort of, a lot of stuff. So it was quite good fun.
It must be one of those things that everything since has probably not paled into insignificance, but if you can cope with that.
Yeah, but also I would say that show is like 300 members of crew, because we were filming, our show wasn't, but the main show is, and you're part of all that. Like it was a juggernaut that I've never worked on anything, because that was in the days when people still watched the X Factor. That was like the last one that like 12 million people were watching. God. So it was just a massive production that was very intimidating. And now I'll go make shows and there's like 5 of us.
Yes, that's
because
right.
no one watches telly anymore.
Absolutely right.
So it was amazing. It was a real a unique experience that not many people have got to do. And I did it with, like, obviously Caroline Flack and I hosted it together, and she became a very good friend of mine, and we did a few more shows together after that, and she really taught me how to do it. She was the one that stood next to me going, this is how you want to say this is how you want to do this. Or even like interview. I'd never interviewed anyone. And you've got people that aren't used to being interviewed, and you've got to get stuff out of them, and they taught me how to do that, really. Like, I can make a mum from Croydon sing who wants to sing for her life cry in 3 questions. Do you know what I mean? Like, they taught me all those little techniques.
Asking about her nan, that kind of thing.
And he stood by a pool in LA going, what are you going to do today? And she goes, I'm just going to try my best. And you go, and what if your best isn't enough? All those sorts of things. No. They knew what they were doing on that show. But it was great. It was a real sort of experience. 22 to go and do that was mad.
Yes, absolutely.
And I've done loads of interesting things since, but that was so different to everything else.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Now,
speaking of things that are different to everything else.
Lovely segue.
Next segment.
So Chris has mentioned how the effects team of Seagull XL5 and many of Gerry's shows used to imprise. Popping down to Woolies and getting the Airfix kit models.
Yes,
but also there's things like in Thunderbirds, you could in one of the launch bays there's you could see a lemon squeezer has been used as part of the
tops of toothpaste tubes were like control knobs and such. And
so
as you may have guessed from the title of the episode that you're going to be watching, Trial by Robot, this episode features some robots.
Yeah, lovely.
And we thought, in the spirit of
oh my gosh, amazing,
of the special effects team from the 1960s, you might want to build your old robots.
Let's do it.
So put that there for you. Now, before we start, let's just have a little look at what you're aiming for. There we go. So these are 3 robots that feature quite heavily in the programme we're going to be watching a little later on. So this is your chance to build your own Gerry Anderson robot.
Am I against the clock, or can I just do it?
Let's give you a few minutes to see how you go.
Cool.
You ready?
Right, lovely. Yes, please.
Right. Off you go.
Lovely.
Right.
Okay.
So what?
Classic.
So your approach is to empty everything out.
So have a look what we've got.
Okay. Yeah.
This is all I've ever wanted to do on a podcast.
So you're actually making use of the container?
Yes. I thought that would probably be the best thing to do for a body.
Okay. Oh, this is looking
quite big. Yeah.
very good. I mean, if it's good enough, Matt, we'll allow you to take it home. Okay, here we go with a face. Let's give it a bit of character. Now, how are you approaching the whole the legs and the walking?
He's way ahead of you.
Really?
Well, I think I am way ahead of you, but
Yes.
I think I'm going to have to compromise and have either legs or arms that are decent. Okay, this is not...
Okay.
No, I can see exactly where you're heading.
Yeah.
That's very good.
I think we're letting you down on the resources front. We needed a bit more sellotape.
If you can give something approaching a pair of arms or a pair of legs, then I think we'll...
Yep. This is great.
This is pure generation game, isn't it?
It really is.
Can you tell I never got asked to do kids' TV? It's mostly about my content, but rather than this. But right, there we go. And then hang on one sec.
Oh, you're really going to go for the legs as well, are you?
Yeah.
You can't move him though. And then there we go.
Very, very nice. Excellent. Well, what do you
I don't
think?
think that's too bad.
Well done, Matt. Come on.
I'm actually proud. Okay, I was going to be modest there, but I'm really chuffed with it.
Yeah,
It cannot be moved,
No,
okay?
no.
There cannot be any intrusion into my robot.
Nobody
Okay?
breathe.
I think we're happy to keep it there for the rest of the podcast.
Yeah, let's.
And I mean, the strange thing is, it doesn't look that out of place when you see it against those three, does it?
No, I did go to try and use this inspiration. I
That's
wasn't
right.
going to go off piste,
Yeah,
but
no, that's good.
yeah, it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, you know, spray it grey and...
I mean, I'm not sure about the slight death mask I've given it, but apart from that, I think we could be okay.
That's excellent. Right. Now, we are getting very close to the point where you're going to see those robots and many more in action in our episode of Seagull XL5, Trial by Robot.
Lovely.
But before we get there...
Does he have a name?
Oh, gosh. What were the robots? What was the vague name of robots?
Well, in this, it's Robert.
Robert.
Yeah, Robert. Yeah, you can think of something a little more imaginative, perhaps.
Why don't we'll keep it, we'll call him Andy Droid.
Andy Droid. There we go.
There you go.
Lovely.
Before we get to Seagull XL5, it's time for this month's Fab Fact.
Now, time for Fab Facts.
It wasn't unknown for Sylvia Anderson to voice characters in the puppet series. So her most famous one was Lady Penelope, but in this she also voices Dr. Venus. But in Seagull XL5, you also hear Gerry's voice quite often as the voice of Robert the Robot.
Okay, Robert, proceed to carry out instructions.
Proceed to carry out instructions. Do not attempt to pass.
You wouldn't overhear him at a bar and go, I think that's the robot, would you?
Aren't you the voice of Robert the Robot? That's right.
So the voice was done by using what they called at the time, I believe, a vibrator, which was pressed against the voice box.
Right. Do they still call it that?
Possibly. Possibly. Some people do, yeah.
There's obviously an Ann Summers on Slough High Street.
Yes. So Gerry voiced Robert the Robot.
Yes.
But he also, uniquely in this episode, he voices all of the other robots using the same vibrator. So basically, for this episode only, he is most of the guest cast.
Robots of the jury.
That's Gerry.
You find the prisoners guilty.
That's Gerry.
Yeah.
Guilty.
That's Gerry.
Guilty.
You can see where it's going.
Yeah.
That's right.
He didn't fancy sort of different accents then for the robots. He didn't
I
think,
would
well, this one will be a
imagine the vibrators
Geordie
are a
robot.
bit limited.
You know, yeah.
Yes. So those robot puppets that you saw there playing the jurors, one of them, or possibly two of them, had appeared in previous episodes. There's one in an episode of Seagull XL5, the Granitoid Tanks, but they were previously in an episode of Supercar. This is the Lost City.
Yeah, that's right. So when was Supercar? How many years previous?
That would have been, well, starting in 1960. So yeah, a couple of years previous, but these puppets were still hanging around to play various robots in XL5.
And it's very common to see them using the same props and even puppets from series to series.
Well, of course, if you've made it.
Exactly. Yeah. So there was a series called Captain Scarlet, he's behind
Yes.
you. The next one was Joe 90, which you may also have heard of, and you can spot many of the same puppets, maybe with a different wig or a bit of facial hair, used again and again.
Lovely.
Why not? Absolutely.
And speaking talking of using those puppets again and again, when Fireball XL5 was released on Blu-ray a few years ago, our very own Chris Thompson, who does some lovely CGI work, he created a CGI short featuring all of the robots of Fireball XL5, including the robot jurors from this very episode.
Return to Fireball XL5. On our way over.
So the robots live on.
The robots live on.
Lovely.
Hand gestures.
I want to see them walk, then I can see if it's really true to life or not.
Now, Jamie,
Who
was that you
provided the voice?
doing the voice for Robert there?
Oh, lovely.
He has a little vibrator thingy of his very own.
He's using it now. Well, I never.
Oh, come on, guys! It's about kids' TV. Let's pull it together.
Come on. Nearly. Right, there you go.
And that brings us to the end of this month's very robotic, very vibratory Fab Facts.
Lovely.
So, now, Matt, we've given you some mission briefings.
Yeah.
We've introduced you to a glittering array of characters, and we've even made you build one of your own.
Andy Droid.
Perfect.
Are you ready to watch an episode of Fireball XL5 with us?
Yes.
Hooray.
That's a perfect answer.
Yes.
Before we get to that, anything coming up that you can tell us about?
Yeah,
Matt?
I am on tour from September this year, doing all over the UK with my new show Brash, which is just lots of jokes about living in the countryside, all my friends having children, and me obviously being diagnosed with ADHD, as we can clearly see.
Yeah, it did enter my mind.
Yeah.
Excellent. Where can we find more details about that?
MattRichardsonComedy.co.uk.
Perfect. Well, thanks so much for joining us in Slough. For now,
Thank you very
much. To sit on the sofa and enjoy an episode of Fireball XL5 with Jamie and Chris. Good luck, and we'll see you again.
Thank you very much. Bye.
This is the voice of the Podsterons.
Yes, it's the voice of the Podsterons. Your chance to get in touch at podcast@gerryanderson.com. And look who's back.
It's Jamie Anderson.
Hello.
He's in this room.
Hello, everyone.
At this table.
It's lovely to be back.
It's lovely to have you, yes. We do have, before we get to your emails, some news this month, Chris.
Yes, well, we have quite a bit of news to get to, and we will. But we're going to start this month with a bit of sad news, as you are undoubtedly aware by now. We've lost not one but two of the main cast of the first season of Space 1999 within the last month.
Very sad.
Firstly, Prentice Hancock, who was Paul Morrow in the first season, passed away, I want to say June 4th, I think. And shortly after that, we learned that Clifton Jones, who was David Carno, also in the first season, had also passed away. So we're very sorry to hear that.
Yes.
And we know all of you are too. Lots of Space 1999 fans around the world sending a tremendous outpouring of emotion and grief, but also sort of positive memories of these people and these characters and having met them. So yes, our deepest condolences to all who knew them.
Yeah.
Well, there you go, Podsterons. That's a reminder, if ever, to go and meet these people if you possibly can, and have a chat with them and say nice things and tell them what they meant to you. Because you never know when they'll be gone.
Yes.
Yeah.
End of an era.
But
yes.
There we are. And I know, Podsterons, you've had many thoughts about this on our Facebook group and also some emails that you've been sending in as well. But in the meantime, let's move on to some brighter news, shall we? What have you got for us, Jamie?
Yes.
What do I have for us?
Well,
I tell you what, Thunderbirds Comic Anthology, how's that for a start?
Thunderbirds Comic Anthology, Volume 1.
Volume 1?
Yes. I don't know if you can see up there, we have a nice print of the cover art for Volume 1.
Yes.
It is, I believe, 4 pages short of 300 pages long.
So it's 296 pages.
It's 296 pages.
Massing everyone, well done.
Yes. And I believe it comprises the first batch of Lady Penelope strips, leading up to the point where they join International Rescue.
Yes.
And then it has the first 8 Thunderbirds strips in it, comic strip stories, which doesn't sound a lot, but one of them, and this is no joke, one of the stories in that comic anthology ran for 4 months. So I'm really looking forward to the Thunderbirds comic anthology.
And there are multiple volumes.
Can we say how many? Because I feel like there should be at least 3 or 4 based on...
I believe there are at least 4 volumes of Thunderbirds, so there's plenty of time for nostalgic comicness.
What?
Everything all right, Chris?
I'm fine. I'm just excited.
Good. I think we should move on before Chris explodes into a
happy.
Yes, I've noticed. So, would you like to read out our first email, Chris?
Me?
Yes.
Okay.
Go on,
right.
Chris.
This is from Hannah. Hello, Hannah.
Hello, Hannah.
I just want to say I absolutely enjoyed Stingray's Deadly Uprising saga. Yes, this is our 60th anniversary Stingray saga from last year, which comprised books, new comic strips, and of course, TV21 comic anthologies. I'm not going straight to that thing. No. But you can.
Chris wrote one of them.
Yes,
just in case
we know.
nobody was aware.
It's hard to imagine that it all started at the concert nearly a year ago.
Yeah, last
Was that a
July.
year ago?
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
Yes,
right.
7 months ago.
I enjoyed both the books, the comics, and of course the Marine Minute videos. Yes, AC put a lot of effort into those on YouTube.
Yeah.
And yes, you were right, Jamie. The final story was indeed an epic read. I was shaking so much with excitement as I turned the first page. I had to read it twice to fully understand what was happening because I was reading it too fast.
Wow.
But it was a great read. But it was also a chance for me to read some TV21 as well, which was an extra treat. You've all done a great job. It has the same drama, the same charm, and even a little sense of humour that we're all familiar with when we think of Stingray.
Ah, nice.
Well done, everyone. PWOR, and that's from Hannah.
Interesting.
Thanks,
Is Stingray known for its sense of humour?
Oh,
I
a
think
little bit, yeah.
Yeah, really.
It's a little bit more tongue-in-cheek and
Yes, I mean,
irreverent.
Yes.
some of my favourite episodes are the ones that are just flat-out comedies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. One for you there, Jamie, I think.
Yes, I have an email from Guy Knowles from
right.
Stockton-on-Tees.
Hello, Guy.
Well, they're written here. It could be Guy Knowles Stockton-on-Tees, which is a very elaborate surname. It's got there. Guy writes, I've been thinking a lot about the puppets in the post-Thunderbirds era.
Oh, yeah, I do that.
Do you?
Yeah, we all do, I think. I've always felt it rather jarring in Captain Scarlet with the realistic puppets with smaller heads. But in Joe 90 in the Secret Service, they look more natural.
Okay, yes.
What do you think on this? Has anyone else noticed weird changes from show to show? Do you think there's a shift from Scarlet to Joe in terms of the humanness and how acceptable?
I don't think there's a shift in the look of the puppets because the bulk of them are the same.
The same
puppets.
Reused, that's right.
You do get some of them are revamped with like new moustaches and glasses,
New
and
wigs.
such.
Yeah.
New wigs. Yeah. But I think there is certainly a slight subtle shift in how they're puppeteered.
Yes.
They try things in Scarlet that they used to do with Thunderbirds, and you can see them realizing that the Scarlet puppets just don't look good moving the same way. So by Joe and Secret Service,
They've refined
They've
it.
sort of calmed down a bit.
Yeah.
There's some weird arm gestures in the early episodes of Scarlet, which were fine for the Thunderbirds puppets, but it never looked right for the Scarlet puppets.
I mean, there's a few weird arm gestures in many of my performances, I have to say.
That's true, yes.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
maybe it's just the proximity to Thunderbirds.
I think you're onto something there, yes, potentially.
Okay.
Great. I have an email here from Chris Turner. Here's one for you, Jamie. He says, I've just read the press release about the thrilling collaboration between Anderson Entertainment, Warner Brothers, and Hanna-Barbera to develop Hit Squad. So I just had to write. This feels like an exciting development, so I'm wanting to ask a couple of questions.
Ooh.
Right.
I may or may not be able to answer
Exactly.
these.
Let's see what we can get out of him, shall we?
You signed various NDAs.
There's so much paperwork, Chris, you would not believe.
Firstly, I'm curious to know what inspired the choice to develop Hit Squad from the fantastic array of projects in the Anderson archive, including 5 Star 5, Intergalactic Rescue, Firestorm, and my personal favourite, Lightspeed. Will this collaboration pave the way for any of these other shows to come to life? And also, as the show evolves, will Jamie be able to share any updates about the cast, crew, writers, or even some sneak peeks at concept art? Best regards, Chris Turner.
So why did we choose Hit Squad? Well, actually, because it was the most unencumbered, meaning no other people involved, there's no one else to get approvals from, licenses from, all that sort of jazz.
Yes.
It's also something that's got a lot of freedom. The expectations from fans are much lower, essentially.
Yes.
It's not like you're trying to live up to some childhood nostalgia, and that we might get that wrong. This is something where there is complete freedom to be nostalgic and reference the old shows, but to make it kind of with a modern appeal.
Yes.
So that was the ideal choice. We went round quite a lot of ideas with Warner Brothers, finding the right thing. So that's the right thing.
Wow.
In terms of updating you as things go, yeah, I mean, in time, absolutely. Bear in mind, it took 10 months to broker that deal.
Yeah.
And that's pretty quick.
Right.
And so across that whole time, I haven't been able to say a word.
No.
I've just been vanishing off and not turning up a podcast and doing other things.
Yeah.
But, we've named director and producer Darren Walsh and Russell McLean,
yes,
who Mr. Morris is their production company, and they are super fans.
Nice.
Had a meal with them a little while ago, and they've done some lovely work. They really love the shows, and the work that we've done so far. They've got great ideas, thoughtful, kind of very Andersonian in their thinking.
Yeah.
So that's very exciting.
And many people seem surprised and delighted that we're talking puppetry here.
Yes.
Not CGI, not animation.
No, very early on, Warner's and Hanna-Barbera said we want to make this the next Supermarionation.
Great.
So they will be using other tricks and stuff.
Yeah.
There will be, digital effects in there, probably some animated elements.
Yeah.
But they wanted it to be the next Anderson puppetry show.
And shot in the UK, are you able to tell us?
Certainly what we're doing next, the first bit is going to be shot in the UK and probably shot in August. Just the first little kind of proof of concept piece, I guess, initially.
Great.
Yeah.
Wow.
More updates to follow, but
fantastic.
As and when I have things I can share, we'll absolutely share them. Probably here first.
Yeah, this is the place to do it, surely.
Yeah. And speaking of sharing things,
right?
Several months ago, you teased something.
Did I?
Yes, you did, and we didn't have a clue what you were talking about. We genuinely didn't know.
I remember
but now we do know.
Yes.
As indeed does most people watching.
Yes.
That there's going to be an exhibition at the Museum of Brands in London.
Yes.
And what can you tell us about this?
Well, do you know the Museum of Brands?
Yes, I have been
Podsterons,
there.
you know it?
I do now.
Okay, well, it's a fantastic kind of time tunnel through all sorts of branded stuff.
Yeah, tons of stuff going back to the 50s and earlier.
I think going back to the 19th century, the earliest
stuff.
things.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
It is, and there's always been quite a lot of Anderson stuff in there, but there's Doctor Who, there's all the sort of spin-off merch from all the
Space
shows,
Precinct bubble bath bottles.
Oh, I see.
They're
Yes,
in there.
okay.
Space Precinct has made it in there.
Yeah.
But they wanted to do something to celebrate the 60th anniversary of Thunderbirds and the 50th anniversary of Space 1999. And so they are expanding their Anderson collection and giving it an entire special area.
Amazing.
We did a tot-up on a call yesterday. They've got over 400 different items.
What?
Just from those two shows.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Across the decade.
Yes. Extraordinary.
And it's going to launch on the 13th of September on Breakaway Day
Of course.
with a very special limited VIP experience. With further information to be announced shortly.
Should we say the day?
Oh, I mean, you're limited VIPs, aren't you?
Oh, well,
We're limited, yeah.
Certainly limited.
Yeah. Yes, you're certainly P's. We'll absolutely, hopefully we'll all be there.
Yes.
Great.
And we can see you there, and you can get a little first look at everything they have to offer. But the idea is that you go there and you instantly feel like you're in a kind of dream childhood from that era, surrounded by all the toys.
Amazing.
And all the spin-off merch and collectibles. It's going to be a really lovely event, and it's going to run for months and months and months. But
it's until
13th
the end
of September is the big day.
February, according to their website. Yeah. So sounds
lovely.
Good. Yes.
Great. Right, good. Well,
Kids get very excited about it.
You spent much of this item being excited.
Well, someone's got to be.
Podsterons, if you'd like to excite Chris Dale even more, why not get in touch at podcast@gerryanderson.com, because we'd love to read out your emails, your thoughts and comments and reviews.
Yes.
But in the meantime...
Hold it.
Can I just give one more little tease?
Oh, go on, yeah.
Is that all right?
Yeah.
So sorry to do an extra tease. Thunderbirds Blu-ray.
Oh, that thing, yeah.
Yes, which we've been doing lots of tweaks and fixes to.
Mm-hmm.
Looking great.
We've been doing some interviews as well.
We've been doing some interviews for a new feature.
Right.
Also a little piece that people may have seen at Andercon in 2014, which is getting a facelift.
Oh,
wow. No, I can't say what it is.
Do you mean my beard?
No, not
Oh,
well, it's nice to see that again.
Bit of a facelift.
In HD now, yeah. Yes, there's some really lovely stuff going into that set.
Including the 2015 Thunderbirds 1965, the 3 anniversary episodes.
Including
which have
those.
not been on disc for a very long time.
Yes, and many other bits and pieces. Yes. But you might expect possibly to be able to secure your copy very soon, perhaps within the next 30 days or so, I might imagine, so it can be delivered later this year. Yeah, well, you must be excited, Matt, surely.
I am.
I'm sure this will end well for him. What could go wrong? Well, let's see, shall we?
That's something I really remember from these puppets is they've got great eyebrows.
Yeah.
Well, you were saying they're based on real people. Margaret Thatcher was obviously that. There's going to be a tank fight now. A lot of it looks like Star Wars.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's get started.
Right, that's the end of that. Where are we heading next? On our way home. Oh, lovely. Where do you live?
Spectrum is green.
So here we are in the library at the Moxie. Now this is just a couple of doors down the corridor from our usual room where we record the podcast. And if we go over to the window here, there is Mr. or Mrs. Seagull. And if we look just down there, what's that? Is a little bundle of baby seagulls. There's 3 of them. They're a bit tuckered out by the look of it, so they're having a little break now. But that is just down the road from where we are, recording the podcast. So, life continues here in Slough, with a proud mummy or daddy seagull, and their little brood. And if you have any names for them, podcast@gerryanderson.com. Isn't they sweet?